Hi, and welcome to Promo Day. I'm author Kristen Lindsay Hager, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to use guest posting as a way to grow your platform. Now, I write young adult and middle grade mostly, so my platform is mostly directed towards those kind of readers. But the good part about when you do guest posting is you don't have to specifically go for blogs that just cater to your genre, because even if you are a mystery writer and you're looking to be on a romance writer's blog, you're going to have that crossover appeal. No matter what you write, whatever blog that you're on, there will be somebody in your audience that maybe wouldn't have normally found out about you. So for me, the fact that I write for preteens and teens doesn't hold me back from asking romance writers, mystery writers, and people from all different backgrounds, authors, to be on their blogs, because people, for one, have kids or are teachers or just enjoy reading that kind of lit. A couple of years ago, I was asked to join last minute a Facebook party, and I noticed the second that I got there, right before I was going to go on, that all the books were either erotica or older romance. They were nothing like what I wrote, because every cover had a half-naked guy on it. And so I messaged the promoter and I says, I don't know if this is necessarily gonna be good for you, because I don't write anything like that. And she says, it doesn't matter, because some of these women who read these books have kids, or they might be teachers, or have nieces, nephews, or neighbor kids. And it ended up being really, really positive for me to do that event. I met a lot of people that I'm still in touch with, readers, who did have kids and other children, or just liked reading YA. So don't let that hold you back, that somebody might not be your audience. So the first thing you need to do when you want to do guest posts is reach out to people whose blogs you like or who you know. And it is a little bit uncomfortable well, I'll say cold call, but now we do emails, so I guess you'd call that cold emails, to someone you don't know very well. It's a little bit awkward. So I would start out with people that you know. If you're with a publishing company, you might have met other authors through that, either through Facebook groups or just that you know of. You would contact them first, ask if they're looking for anything, or just mention you're looking to do guest posts. Maybe you have a book coming out, or the anniversary of a book, or just have a topic in mind. And you might even share if you do have a topic in mind, and just ask if there's any takers on a Facebook forum page, whatever. You could also go and share with somebody that you have an idea that might work for their blog, or ask, is anybody looking for content for their blogs, and ask them if there's something that they're looking for. There are some people who have very strict blogs where they just want to talk about writing, or they might have a reoccurring theme to their blog. I do a whole bit about letters to my younger self. So a lot of times when people are looking to promote their latest book coming out, I will suggest doing one of those, because for one, it is less promoty than just having a whole book feature. You talk about one topic and how it relates to you, and then you can include your social media links, your website link, without ever mentioning what you're trying to sell. You're just sharing information. And what I love about the Letters to My Younger Self series is that not only is it great for people to read, but it's great for the teens and preteens to learn from. They're very, very popular. I have a lot of people commenting on them even months after they've come on. So that's always something to, either for your own blog, to have something like that so you can bring people on. And that's another big thing too, if you want to do guest blogs, reciprocation. There was an author a few years ago who mentioned that she didn't have a blog, but she was looking to do a lot of guest posts, and she was putting out feelers. And I remember hearing a lot of kickback from that, from people saying that they felt a little, not that they were expecting anything in return, but it would have been nice had she offered to have them on. I personally like the fact having people on, not so much because, oh, I get something out of it. That's not so much what I'm looking at, as much as it is that you grow both your audiences. There's other authors that write similar things to it, like I do, about the bullying. One author in particular, Nadia King, she has a great book out, and it talks about bullying, suicide, things like that. And I always love when I can have her on. In fact, she's going to be doing a new YA blog post, guest post for me very soon. And I always love being on hers, because we're in the same theme. We're talking about the same things. The same things matter. matter to us. There are other authors too that we'll go back and forth that I love having on because they're dealing with the same sort of things, the same sort of subject. Even if our audiences are a little bit younger, older, or the genre is different, if you're in the same vein, interested in the same things, that's always helpful. So, but really any blogs that you can get on, even if it's somebody who just has a fashion blog or something, readers are everywhere. Everybody reads something. So never pass up an opportunity if it's presented to you. Now I'm going to give you some ideas of what you can write about. And I'm going to suggest that you look at themes that are within your own work. And it doesn't have to be something that you necessarily wrote about, but something that influences your writing. So for me, one blog that I did, my Landry's True Color series is, I call it Younger YA, Older Middle Grade. Because middle grade usually kind of caps out at age 12, 7th grade. And Landry is 13, turns 14 in the first book in 8th grade. So she's right on that cusp. So the first book in the Landry's True Color series, she's dealing with the whole, the modeling contest that she didn't even want to go to. So I kind of talk about where my influence for that came, which was, of course, the fact that I grew up in the era of the supermodels. So one of the guest posts I did for Mother, Daughter, and Son book reviews was going back to the preteen years while writing, because that's basically what I had to do, go back to my middle school years. And so I wrote a whole blog post about that, and I wrote about the fact that at the time, 17 magazine featured Nikki Taylor. And Nikki Taylor was one of the supermodels, but she was one of the younger ones. Most of them that were in their 20s, 30s, and she was technically still a teenager when she started out. So when you are a teenager, there's a huge difference between age 15 and age 17 and so on. But when you are a teen, it doesn't feel that far off. And when you're looking at these covers of Nikki Taylor, you might not compare yourself to Christy Turlington or Cindy Crawford because they were a lot older, so they're going to, look gorgeous, immaculate, and have their stuff together. But somebody who was younger like that, you thought was a little bit more obtainable, and Nikki Taylor was like the girl next door. So I talk about how, we would go and read the magazines, and they would always have that little section telling you what makeup Nikki or whatever girl had on, and we would go to the drugstore and buy it, put it on, and wonder why it looked nothing like that on us. So that kind of self-esteem thing, because that's something that when you are that age, and back then we didn't talk about things like photoshopping and all that kind of stuff, editing photos. So that's also something in my Next Door to a Star book that really comes out, because there's the teen TV star Simone Hendrickson that Hadley moves next door to, and they're talking about, Hadley's going to get the magazines with Valeria Joseph on the cover and doing all the same makeup things and wondering why she doesn't look the same. And then Simone is telling her the behind the scenes stuff about false eyelashes and hair extensions and photoshopping and all the stuff that Hadley didn't know about, wasn't part of her world, and all the fake stuff. So she starts to feel a little bit better about herself when Simone is sharing all these secrets, little tricks that they do with makeup and contouring, which Hadley had no clue what that was, and liquid liner and different ways you can do your makeup. So that kind of thing came from my own insecurities and growing up with all of the supermodel stuff. So that gives me topics to write about. I often talk about things like that in my guest posts, and talking about my own middle school years. Right when Next Door to a Star came out, and then the follow-up book, which in the series, which is Competing with a Star, I talked about going back to my high school reunion and what that was like, and how, because some of my friends who were in senior year were not there, it really brought me back to being 15, 14 years old, walking through the front door when I didn't know anybody, because I started at a private small school and went to the public high school. So I came from a very, very small class to a huge class where I didn't know a lot of people. And walking into the reunion with a lot of my really good friends not being there, I didn't recognize anybody when I first walked in, and that was pretty terrifying. But it was also something I could channel into for my own books, like, eventually Landry is going to be going to high school, and so now I know how she's going to feel. So I wrote about my high school reunion, and I've also written about those the teen years and things like that, coming up to the reunion, the things that were making me nervous and all of that. So you can really take a lot of different things. I've talked about my own modeling experience. which is where a lot of the stuff for Landry came from. I've also talked about some unpleasant situations with frenemies. I've done several blog posts on friends and frenemies, and as you can see here, there's some stuff going on where these are her two closest friends, and she's starting to notice the difference with their interests and terrified that they won't all be as close when they hit middle school. And we also see in the third book in the series, Landry and Like, that there's some mean girl drama going on. And so I will do guest posts about things like that I've experienced. There's a lot too with pop culture in the Star series, so I often talk about that. And then there's a vein in Competing with the Star, and it also shows up in Dating the It Guy, this book, where I'm dealing with the subject of in a smaller subplot of dementia and Parkinson's. And Hadley's boyfriend's grandfather has Lewy body, Parkinson's with dementia, and how it affects him, and it brings their relationship deeper because he can confide in her. So I have done some posts about how that impacted my life, about reader reaction to it. I did a post for L's Authors, which is authors that write about things like Alzheimer's, dementia, and got a lot of feedback on that. And I talked about how I dealt with my own experience in my own life dealing with it by writing it, and how I couldn't talk about it, but I could write about it. And I put my situation into a teenage boy, 17-year-old boy, voice, because I wasn't able to talk about it myself, but I felt that it was important and it needed to go out there. So that was a guest post, which when I first agreed to do it, I was approached about doing it. I didn't suggest it myself because, like I said, I wasn't ready to talk about it, and I agreed to do it. And then when the deadline came around, I changed my mind, didn't want to do it, but my dad's always installed that whole thing that if you commit and give your word to do something, you have to do it. So my post was a little bit on the angry side because that's what I was feeling, and I thought, I'm not going to censor this because this is a very real feeling. Maybe somebody else is going through that. So I wrote about all the difficulties with that, and that became the guest post that I so reluctantly did, and it ended up having a further reach because other people felt the same way that I did when I wrote it. And so it ended up being a positive thing. It was, I guess you'd say, the anger part of it, and sharing that ended up being a teachable moment, which wasn't intended, but it ended up having a very good impact because it helped somebody else. That's another thing with some guest posts that I have coming up for Dating the It Guy. There's a lot of stuff about dealing with the new age things. Sometimes people rely on that as a crutch, and it's not the healthiest way to go, but it's really popular right now, and I started to see how that was unhealthy for people around me. So I have some guest posts coming up that you'll see some of that, and also with the relationship with her dealing with a grandparent being sick, and then another grandparent with dementia. That's a subplot that's really come out well in the book. Among the book reviewers, they are really talking a lot about that. So there's going to be guest posts coming out about that because I've been approached. Also, with your guest posting, because you're going to be sharing them all over with your Instagram, it's really important to have good visuals. So for this particular one, I have taken pictures, as you can see, that Emmy has all the bracelets on, which I wear in my own life. So I have taken pictures and shared that on my Instagram and Facebook because that is part of my life and it's part of the story. I also think that the visuals are very important to help readers get an idea of what you're writing about. So I have a post coming up soon where this book is set in Birmingham, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. And I went there and took quite a lot of pictures, so I will be sharing those so people can get a feel of the environment that Emmy is from. With the Star series, this is set in Grand Haven, Michigan, which is a beach town, Lake Michigan. And you kind of get that feel there with the water and everything. I have done posts where I've shared pictures of the area, Grand Haven, the beach, some of the stores, and I even did a guest post with Love for Books talking about beach reads that I enjoyed in the summer, and I share pictures of Grand Haven and Saugatuck, which I also write about, and I share them also on my social media things so that when people see the picture, they can read that there's a guest post link there. So if something in the picture, if they're interested in reading more about that beach area on the Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, then they can follow the link if they want to read more. I also went and took pictures in Grand Rapids, which is where the Landry's True Color series is set, and I took a bunch of pictures of Grand Rapids and have shared them. So I've even shared what Landry's house looks like, because Landry's house is based on my grandmother's house that she bought on her own. She was very proud to be a woman in that era who could buy her own house. But it's set where my aunt and uncle's house is, so I'll show the neighborhood. You can see where Landry gets the bus, where her friends live. And I've also shared pictures, because again, this is set in middle school, of where I went to middle school and also my high school. So if you know those areas, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, or just get that feeling. And it also makes for a good guest post because you're relating back to what you write about. So as they read, if they connect with you in that guest post, they know that they're probably going to be interested in your writing. And it's a good idea to have people kind of get a feel before they pick up your books. So just a couple tips for you on guest posting. I will post some links to some of my guest posts in the comments so that you can see an example. So thank you for joining me on Promo Day.